He handed me a cheap white jacket and told me to look the part. My son-in-law wanted me to serve his boss like a waiter in the penthouse I secretly owned. He thought I was a broken, bankrupt old man. He was about to learn that you don't humiliate the man who holds the deed to your entire life. If you're listening to this, subscribe and let me know where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. Let me back up and tell you how a man goes from designing skylines to scrubbing toilets. It started 6 months ago. Not with a crash, but with silence and the smell of bleach. 6 months ago, my world ended. It wasn't a loud explosion. It was the quiet scratch of a pen on a foreclosure document. The bank took my house. The house where my wife Martha planted her roses. 30 years of memories erased. The garden was probably dead now, choked by weeds. Just like I felt, my construction firm crumbled. The market crashed. But it wasn't just the market that broke me. It was a choice. A choice between saving myself and saving my people. I could have declared bankruptcy, protected my assets, left my employees with nothing, their pensions gone, their futures uncertain. But I couldn't do it. They trusted me. Their families depended on me. I built that company on integrity. I wasn't going to let it die in shame, so I liquidated everything. I used my savings. I mortgaged the house. I made sure every employee got their final paycheck, every pension secured. I prioritized people over profit, and it cost me everything I owned, or so they thought. The truth was much more complicated. When the bank took the keys, I felt hollow, empty. It wasn't the bricks and mortar, it was Martha's laughter echoing in the hallway. It was my daughter Jessica's graduation party. Quiet evenings by the fireplace, all gone, reduced to ashes. Jessica and her husband Kevin offered me a place to stay. I was hesitant. Kevin worked in high-end real estate development. He was ambitious, ruthless. He always seemed more interested in my contacts than my character. He was everything I despised in the industry, but I was tired, grieving. I had nowhere else to go. I thought family meant something. I was wrong. "Dad, of course you have to move in with us," Jessica had said. Her voice was tight. I mistook it for concern. It was obligation. "We have plenty of room." I should have known then that room didn't mean space. It meant confinement. I arrived at their sprawling penthouse with 2 suitcases, all that remained of my life. The apartment was massive, all white marble and glass. It overlooked the city I built. The welcome was colder than the floors. "We put you in the utility room, Arthur," Kevin said. He didn't look at me. He gestured towards a small door off the kitchen. "It's cozy, like a coffin." He paused, running a finger along a spotless countertop, checking my work already. "And it has access to the service elevator," he added. "So you won't disturb us when we have guests." Disturb them? My very presence was already an interruption. The room was barely bigger than a closet. It smelled of detergent and damp towels. A small, uncomfortable cot was crammed between the water heater and shelves overflowing with cleaning supplies. There was no window, no air, no escape. "It's fine," I said. I swallowed the lump of pride in my throat. "Thank you." Jessica avoided my eyes. She was already on her phone, tapping furiously, a nervous habit she developed around Kevin, twisting her rings. "We just need you to help out a bit, Dad," she said quickly. "You know, until you get back on your feet. Keep you busy." Of course. I wanted to contribute. I didn't want to be a burden. But helping out wasn't what they had in mind. They didn't want a father. They wanted a servant. And the real betrayal was still waiting in the shadows. The tension started immediately, like hairline fractures spreading across a foundation. And I knew foundations. I knew when they were about to crack. First, it was the meals. I enjoyed cooking. I started preparing dinner. Simple, hearty meals. The kind Martha used to love. I set the table one evening. Roast chicken, potatoes, green beans. Martha's recipe. I felt a flicker of hope. Maybe this could work. Kevin walked in. He looked at the food like it was garbage. "Is this chicken?" he asked, picking at it with his fork. He didn't even sit down. "Yes, it's dry, Arthur." He dropped the fork. It clattered loudly on the china. "Jessica, let's order that new sushi place. I need real food." He didn't even wait for her to agree. He was already dialing. Real food, as if my effort was worthless. As if I was worthless. I watched them eat the expensive takeout in the dining room. The smell of soy sauce and ginger filled the air. I retreated to the kitchen. I sat on a small stool. I ate the dry chicken, cold. The sound of their laughter echoed from the other room. It felt like a mockery of my hunger. Soon, I stopped eating with them altogether. I prepared their meals, served them, then disappeared, just like they wanted. But that wasn't the worst part. The humiliation was just beginning. Then, it was the space. My existence seemed to irritate Kevin. The penthouse was huge, but apparently not big enough for me. I was a constant intrusion in their perfect life. One evening, I was in the living room, reading a newspaper I found in the recycling bin. The quiet rustle of the pages was the only sound. Kevin walked in, talking loudly on his phone. He stopped short when he saw me. He looked at me like I was a stain on the carpet. He held up a finger, silencing me before I even spoke. I froze. When he finished his call, he didn't move. He just glared. "Arthur, do you mind?" His voice was cold, precise. "I'm just reading, Kevin. This is the main living area," he snapped, gesturing around the vast room. "I need to make important calls. If you need to read, do it in your room. My room. The utility closet." I quietly folded the newspaper. I retreated. The hum of the water heater was loud in the small space. The walls felt close. I told myself I had to be grateful. I had survived, but survival had a cost, and the price was rising every day. The insults became sharper, more personalized. And Jessica, my own daughter, seemed embarrassed by me. She had adopted Kevin's world. His obsession with status. His fear of looking poor. "Dad?" she said one afternoon. She was wearing a designer dress that cost more than my car used to. Her face was tight with anxiety. She picked imaginary lint off the fabric. "Kevin's colleagues are coming over tonight for cocktails." "Okay," I said, wiping down the counter. "Could you maybe stay in your room?" Her voice was tight, small. The hurt was sharper than I expected. "Why? I used to know some of these people. I worked with them." "That was then, Dad," she snapped. It was Kevin's voice coming out of her mouth. "Things are different now." "How are they different?" I challenged. "You lost your company. You're broke," she said. The words brutal. Doesn't look good for Kevin to have his bankrupt father-in-law living in the utility room. She looked away. "Please, just don't make this awkward." "It doesn't look good." I stared at her. I searched for the sweet girl I raised. The girl who volunteered at the soup kitchen with Martha. I saw only a reflection of Kevin's ambition, a stranger wearing my daughter's face. The betrayal sat heavy in my chest. I tried to find moments of dignity, moments of connection, even in this sterile environment. One afternoon, I was taking the trash out, using the service elevator as instructed. I hated the smell, the grime. The elevator stopped on the maintenance level. An older man stepped in. He wore blue overalls. His name tag read, Joe. He looked at me, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. "Mr. Vance?" he whispered. I nodded slightly. I didn't want to talk. "I used to work maintenance in your old office building, sir," Joe said. He looked at my worn clothes, the trash bags at my feet. His face fell. "I heard what happened. I'm so sorry." "Thank you, Joe." I stared at the floor. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a granola bar. "It's not much, but you always remembered my name, sir. You always asked about my kids." I took the bar. Small act of kindness in a world devoid of it. "I appreciate that, Joe." The elevator doors opened on the lobby level. Joe hesitated. "Be careful up there, Mr. Vance. Those folks." He shook his head, his eyes dark with warning. "They ain't right. The things they say when they think no one is listening. Just be careful." He knew. Everyone knew. A few days later, I encountered another familiar face. I was returning from the grocery store carrying heavy bags. Kevin insisted I shop daily for fresh ingredients. A man in a sharp suit held the door for me. I recognized him instantly. Marco, my former foreman. "Mr. Vance?" Marco said, his voice filled with surprise. He quickly took the bags from me. "Marco, it's good to see you." "You too, boss." "But what are you doing here, carrying these bags?" He looked confused. I'm staying with my daughter for a while, I said vaguely. Marco frowned. He knew Kevin's reputation. Are they treating you right, Mr. Vance? Because if they aren't, he trailed off, his loyalty still fierce after all these years. I'm fine, Marco, I lied. I didn't want his pity. I wanted my life back. You sure? You look tired. He reached into his wallet, pulled out a business card. I started my own small contracting business, thanks to the severance you gave us. If you need anything at all, you call me. I took the card. Thank you, Marco. The kindness of strangers and former employees was a stark contrast to the coldness of my own family. But the deepest cut was yet to come. The isolation was crippling. But the worst part involved my grandson, Leo. Leo was 5, bright, energetic. He reminded me so much of Martha. He was the one bright spot in my bleak existence. He didn't care about my bank account. He just wanted his grandpa. I used to pick him up from preschool. We would walk to the park. I would tell him stories about the buildings I built. You built that, Grandpa? He would ask, eyes wide with wonder. I did, buddy. In those moments, I wasn't a failure. I was Arthur Vance, architect. But Kevin put a stop to that, and he did it with calculated cruelty. We hired a nanny, Arthur, Kevin announced one morning. He was sipping an espresso I had just made for him. He didn't say thank you. He never did. A nanny? I can pick him up. It saves money. Money isn't the issue. Structure is. Kevin dismissed me. Her name is Miss Dubois. She speaks French. Leo needs discipline, not stories about old buildings. Discipline. What he meant was control. He wanted to control Leo, and he wanted to control me. Miss Dubois arrived the next day, stern, dressed in a gray uniform. She looked at me with the same disdain Kevin did, maybe even more. She saw me as an obstacle, a nuisance. My interactions with Leo became limited, supervised. Miss Dubois watched me like a hawk, as if I might contaminate him, as if failure was contagious. They were erasing me from his life. Piece by piece, one afternoon, I was cleaning the kitchen. The smell of bleach stung my nose. Leo ran in, crying. He had fallen, scraped his knee. Miss Dubois was on the phone in the hallway, ignoring him. Grandpa, it hurts, he sobbed. He clung to my leg. I knelt, wiped my hands on my jeans, hugged him tightly. It's okay, Leo. Grandpa's here. Let's get a bandage. Arthur. Kevin's voice cracked through the hallway like a whip. He stormed into the kitchen, Ms. de Dubois right behind him, looking smug. Kevin pulled Leo away from me, roughly. What are you doing? He demanded. His face was red with anger. He was hurt, Kevin.
I was just helping him.
And Ms. Dubois handles this? You handle the cleaning. He looked at Leo, his voice cold. Leo, go to the nanny. You know you're not supposed to bother Grandpa when he's working. Working. Is that what this was? Slavery. He turned back to me. His eyes narrowed. Don't distract him. Then he paused. A cruel smile spread across his face. He was about to twist the knife. Frankly, I don't want him spending too much time with you anyway. What does that mean? My voice trembled. The rage was bubbling up, hot and acidic. It means I don't want him getting comfortable with failure, Kevin said. His voice dripped with contempt. I don't want him thinking this. He gestured around the kitchen at me. Is acceptable. Failure. A cautionary tale. A virus. That one hit deep. It twisted in my gut. I looked away. I couldn't let him see how much he had hurt me. I wasn't going to let him see me break. Not here, not now. The smell of bleach and roasting beef filled the air. A cruel mix of servitude and celebration. It was Kevin's birthday. My day started at 5 a.m. I said, clean everything, Arthur, not just wipe it down. Kevin didn't look up from his phone. He was lounging on the white leather sofa I had just polished, dressed in silk pajamas that cost a fortune. It is clean, Kevin, I said. Steady, low. I refused to tremble before this weak man. Kevin sighed. A long, drawn-out sound, designed for maximum irritation. He stood up, stretched languidly, walked to the massive floor-to-ceiling windows. Clean to you, perhaps, Arthur, but your clean is not my clean. He ran a finger along the windowsill, examined it microscopically. Then he flicked his finger at me. Discarding dust. Discarding me? This is filth, Arthur. Do you want us to live in filth? He turned, his face a mask of superiority. Now listen closely. Today is important. Today is critical. He was setting the stage, and I was the main attraction in his circus of cruelty. We are not having some cheap takeout or one of your bland casseroles for my birthday. The insult landed like a hammer blow, precise, heavy. My CEO, Sarah Jenkins, is coming over for dinner tonight, Kevin announced. He puffed out his chest, a peacock displaying its feathers. This is my chance to secure the senior partner position. Everything, and I mean everything, must be perfect. Sarah Jenkins. The name resonated deep in my memory. A sharp young architect I had hired decades ago, mentored, promoted. This was going to be interesting. He looked me up and down. My worn jeans. The faded t-shirt I slept in. His lip curled in distaste. You will cook a proper dinner. Beef Wellington. I have the recipe. He tossed a glossy magazine onto the coffee table. Don't mess it up. The tenderloin is expensive. He leaned in close. His cologne was aggressive, offensive. And when they arrive, you serve the drinks, you serve the food, and then you disappear. His voice dropped to a hiss. Go to your room. I don't want you hovering around, embarrassing me with your presence. Just serve us and leave. Disappear. Embarrassing. Present. The words were sharp cuts, meant to reduce me to nothing. I just nodded. Beef Wellington understood. He was trying to break me before his big night. He wanted me meek, subservient, broken. He was about to get exactly what he asked for, but not in the way he expected. The day marched on, relentlessly. The penthouse gleamed. The air was thick with the smell of the beef Wellington. I prepared it meticulously, perfectly. My bones ached, a fatigue that sleep couldn't cure. I finished setting the table, their wedding china, silverware, aligned with surgical precision. At 6 o'clock, the ultimate humiliation arrived. It wasn't a shout. It was a whisper of cheap polyester. Kevin walked into the kitchen, freshly showered, expensive suit. He looked ready to conquer the world. He was holding something in his hand. It was a white jacket. Cheap polyester. It looked like an old waiter's uniform. A cruel joke. Here, he said, shoving it at me. Put this on. I stared at the jacket, dread pooling in my stomach. What is this, Kevin? It's a serving jacket. A smirk played on his lips. He was enjoying this, relishing it. You need to look the part, Arthur. He leaned in. We have the CEO of the firm coming tonight. You can't serve Sarah Jenkins looking like a homeless man. The cruelty was so casual, so effortless. It took my breath away. He was stripping away my identity, my humanity. I'm not wearing this, Kevin, I said. My voice was low, dangerous. The anger I had suppressed for months was finally surfacing. You will wear it, he insisted. The smirk vanished, replaced by the cold mask of authority. This is my house. My rules. His eyes narrowed. You want to stay here? You want us to keep feeding you? You wear the jacket. And don't speak unless spoken to. Understand? The threat hung in the air. Obey, or you're out on the street. I looked at the jacket. The polyester felt abrasive. I thought of my old suits, the bespoke Italian wool I wore in boardrooms, when I commanded respect. I looked at Jessica. She had walked into the kitchen silently. She was watching us, her face impassive, cold. I searched her eyes for a flicker of protest, a hint of defense, a spark of the daughter I knew. There was nothing. She just nodded slightly, affirming Kevin's command, co-signing my humiliation. The realization hit me with full force. They saw me as less than human, and my own daughter was complicit. The rupture was complete. The trust was gone, shattered. I took the jacket. I put it on. It was too tight across the shoulders, the sleeves too short. I felt ridiculous, degraded. I walked to the hallway mirror. I looked at my reflection. I didn't recognize the man staring back at me. The gray hair, the tear-red eyes, the ridiculous white jacket. I was a ghost in my own life. The weight of the last 6 months crashed down on me. The sleepless nights, the lonely meals, the cold indifference in Jessica's eyes, the loss of Leo. I had finally reached my limit. I leaned against the counter, my breath catching in my throat. I felt a profound exhaustion, emotional. I was tired of being invisible, tired of apologizing for my existence, tired of grieving for the life I had lost, and the daughter I no longer knew. I looked at the small, framed photo of Martha. I kept on the windowsill, her smiling face. What would she think of me now? What would she think of Jessica? Tears blurred my vision. I had sacrificed everything for my principles, and this was my reward. Humiliation, degradation. I had reached my breaking point. This existence wasn't living. It was a slow death. I thought it was over. I was wrong. The deepest betrayal was just moments away. I finished the final preparations. The beef Wellington was resting, the gravy simmering. Rich and savory, I transferred the hot liquid to a gravy boat. My hands were trembling. Fatigue, emotion. They slipped. The boat tilted. Scalding hot gravy sloshed over the side. Searing my hand, I gasped, pulled my hand back instinctively. The pain was sharp, immediate, intense. Kevin was hovering by the bar cart, mixing a drink. He looked over in annoyance. "What now? Are you serious?" "I burned myself," I muttered, rushing to the sink, running cold water over the angry red skin. "Great. Just great," Kevin scoffed. He didn't move to help. "Now the whole kitchen smells like burned gravy," he sighed heavily. "Try to be more careful, Arthur. You're so incredibly clumsy." "Did you ruin the gravy?" No sympathy, no concern, just annoyance. I was an object to him, a faulty appliance. My throat burned as I swallowed hard. I wasn't going to let him see the pain. I needed a bandage. My hand was throbbing, the skin blistering. I knew there was a first aid kit in Kevin's study. I hurried down the hallway, cradling my injured hand. I opened the study door. The room was dark, smelled of expensive leather and Kevin's aggressive cologne, the scent of arrogance. I went to the closet, where the kit was kept. As I grabbed it, my injured hand brushed against a pile of papers on his desk. They scattered onto the floor. "Damn it," I whispered, bending down to pick them up. My heart pounded. I didn't want him to accuse me of snooping. That's when I saw it. A bank statement. Not Kevin's, mine. It was from my small emergency account. The last few $1,000s I had managed to hide. The last scraps of my independence. My escape fund. I picked it up, my hands shaking so badly I could barely read the numbers. There were regular withdrawals, hundreds of dollars at a time, going back months, ever since I moved in. They were stealing from me. Each withdrawal was meticulously noted in a ledger next to the statement. Kevin's neat, precise handwriting. Rent and utilities. Arthur Vance. The deeper betrayal punched the air out of my lungs. I couldn't breathe. The room spun. My ears rang. For a second I forgot how to breathe. They weren't just treating me like a servant. They were robbing me. They had taken my dignity, my family, my home. And now they were taking the last few dollars I had. They were charging me rent to live in their utility room. While I worked as their slave, they were bleeding me dry and complaining about the mess. The realization redefined everything. It wasn't just cruelty. It was calculated exploitation. They thought I was weak, vulnerable, easy prey. They had forgotten who I was. If this story is keeping you hooked, drop a like. It was that moment, standing in his study, that everything changed. The transformation began right there, in the quiet study, surrounded by Kevin's trophies and achievements. The shame, the fear, the grief that had paralyzed me evaporated, burned away by a cold, hard anger. The fog cleared. My mind, the mind that had built an empire, snapped back into focus. Sharp, clear, ruthless. They wanted a servant. I would give them one. I would play the role perfectly tonight. I would wear the stupid jacket. I would serve the dinner. But I would do it knowing something they didn't. I would do it knowing this was the last time. I had let them believe I was destitute, a broken old man. I needed to know, when the chips were down, when I had nothing left to offer, what did family really mean to them? I had my answer. It meant nothing. What they didn't know was that the construction firm was only one part of my life. A passion project. It failed. Yes. But my real wealth, my real power remained untouched, hidden, secure. I wrapped my hand, put the statement back exactly where I found it. I walked back to the kitchen. My movements were precise, deliberate. I was no longer rushing in fear. I was waiting. But first, I needed to make a call. I slipped into the guest bathroom. Locked the door, I pulled out the old, battered cell phone I kept hidden in the lining of my suitcase. The suitcase stored deep in the utility closet. I dialed a number from memory. It rang twice. Harrison and Associates. Mr. Harrison, please. It's Arthur Vance. A pause. Then a familiar, warm voice. Thomas Harrison. My lawyer for 30 years. Arthur? My God, where have you been? We've been trying to find you for months. I know, Tom. I apologize. I needed some time away, I said, my voice calm. Time away? Arthur, the board is in chaos. Jenkins and Associates needs leadership. Your proxy vote is crucial. I'm aware, I said. Tom, I need you to do something for me. Immediately. Anything. Arthur, name it. I need you to prepare the paperwork to activate my full voting rights as majority shareholder, effective immediately, and I need you to freeze the accounts of one Kevin Riley. He's an executive there. Tom Harrison didn't hesitate. Consider it done, Arthur. I'll have the authorization sent to the banks now. What's going on? I'll explain later. But Tom, it's good to be back. I hung up. The pieces were in place. The trap was set. The old contractor still had a few tools left in his belt, and tonight I was going to demolish their world. At 7:30 sharp, the doorbell rang. She's here, Jessica whispered excitedly, smoothing her dress. She looked terrified, her eyes darting around the room, checking for imperfections, checking on me. Arthur, drinks! Now! Kevin hissed at me from the hallway. I picked up the silver tray, loaded with champagne flutes. My hand throbbed under the bandage. I ignored the pain. The cold anger steadied me. It was showtime. I heard the greetings from the foyer. Kevin's booming, overly cheerful voice, a voice he reserved for people he wanted to impress. Jessica's high-pitched laughter, artificial and brittle, and then a woman's voice, calm, measured, confident. Kevin, Jessica, lovely home, the woman said. Thank you, Sarah. We're so thrilled you could make it, Kevin gushed. It means the world to us. Happy birthday to me, right? I walked into the living room. The panoramic view of the city skyline was breathtaking. Sarah Jenkins was facing the fireplace, admiring a large abstract painting. She was elegant, sharp navy suit. Her posture radiated authority. Champagne? I asked quietly. My voice neutral, professional. Sarah turned around. The climax didn't start with a shout. It started with a silence that stretched, taut and agonizing. Filling the vast room, Sarah Jenkins froze. Her eyes locked onto mine. Not the eyes of a CEO looking at a servant, but the eyes of someone recognizing a ghost. Her composure slipped, her professional mask falling away, revealing utter disbelief. Kevin, oblivious, chuckled nervously. Oh, don't mind him. That's just Arthur, my father-in-law. He gestured dismissively towards me. He helps out around here, a bit clumsy, as you can see from the bandage. He looked at me, his eyes cold, commanding. Thank you, Arthur. You can go now. I didn't move. I kept my gaze fixed on Sarah. I waited for the impact. Sarah ignored Kevin. She took a step toward me, her expression shifting, confusion to shock, and finally, profound realization. The sound of breaking glass shattered the silence. The champagne flute slipped from Sarah's hand. It exploded on the marble floor. Champagne and crystals sprayed across the polished surface. Oh my God! she whispered, her voice trembling. She raised a hand to her mouth. Arthur? Arthur Vance? Jessica gasped, her eyes wide with panic. Kevin stared, mouth open, looking between me and Sarah. You know him? Sarah looked at me, her eyes filling with sudden tears. Know him? Kevin, what in the world is going on here? Her voice rose in anger and disbelief. Why is Arthur Vance serving drinks in your house? In a waiter's jacket. She turned back to me, her voice filled with reverence and distress. Oh my God, aren't you the man who founded this company? The truth landed like a bomb, the shock wave, blowing apart the facade of Kevin's perfect life. Kevin went pale, the color draining from his face. He looked sick. Founded? What are you talking about? His voice was high. Panicked. He's broke. He lost his construction business. He lost everything. You idiot, Sarah snapped, her composure breaking. Raw fury. Arthur Vance didn't just found Jenkins and Associates. He is the company. She pointed a shaking finger at me. He built it from the ground up 40 years ago. He designed our headquarters. He was my mentor. She took a deep breath, trying to regain control. He retired 15 years ago. Yes. He pursued his construction interests. Yes. But he never sold his stake. She looked at Kevin, her eyes like steel. Arthur Vance still holds the majority voting shares on the board. He owns this firm, Kevin. He owns you. Kevin staggered back, clutching his chest. He looked like he was having a heart attack. The reality of his situation crashing down on him. Sarah turned to me, her expression softening. Arthur, I thought you were traveling the world. When we heard about the construction firm collapsing, we tried to reach you for months. Tom Harrison said you were unreachable. The board has been in chaos. Where have you been? I looked down at the stupid white jacket, the cheap polyester clinging to my skin. I've been indisposed, I said, my voice clear and strong for the first time in months. I was conducting a social experiment. I turned to Kevin. He looked like he was about to faint. It seems I forgot to mention that part when I moved in. Jessica burst into tears, loud, racking sobs. Dad, you own the company. You're rich? Her voice was hysterical. Why didn't you say anything? Why did you let us... Her voice trailed off. The realization of what they had done, hitting her full force. The shame was visible, palpable. I wanted to see what family meant to you when I had nothing left to give. I said, my voice quiet but firm, cutting through the silence. I found out. That silence cut deeper than any word. Sarah looked around the room, taking in the scene, the opulent setting, the waiter's jacket, the bandage on my hand, the look of utter contempt on Kevin's face. Just moments before, the pieces clicked into place. Her expression hardened into something terrifying. Kevin, she said, her voice dripping with ice. You made Arthur Vance the greatest architect of his generation, the man who built our legacy, the man whose name is synonymous with integrity. She paused, her voice shaking with rage. You made him serve you like a common servant? You humiliated him? I didn't know, Kevin stammered, sweat pouring down his face. He looked pathetic, small. He never said, I thought you didn't know who he was, Sarah interrupted. But you knew he was an elderly man, your wife's father, living under your roof, and you treated him with unimaginable cruelty. She shook her head. Disgust. The senior partner position. You will never hold it. She looked him straight in the eye. The verdict was final. In fact, you won't hold any position at my firm. You're fired, Kevin, effective immediately. Kevin staggered back. You can't do that. I have a contract. I have rights. And we have a morality clause, Sarah retorted. And I understand from Mr. Harrison that your accounts have already been frozen, pending an audit. Kevin's eyes darted to the study. The realization that I knew about the theft hit him. Believe me, Sarah continued, when the board hears about this, when the press hears about this, you'll be unemployable. What you've done here tonight is despicable. She pointed to the door. Clean out your desk tomorrow. Security will escort you out. The resolution was swift. brutal. Justice served colder than the champagne staining his floor. Kevin fell onto the sofa, his face buried in his hands. His world, built on arrogance and the illusion of control, had crumbled in minutes. Jessica rushed to me, makeup running down her face. She tried to hug me, clinging like a drowning woman. "Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize." "Kevin," he pressured me. "Please, forgive me." I stepped back, untangling myself from her grasp. The touch of her hands felt cold. Alien. Lie. She always cried when she lied. "You realized I was hurting, Jessica," I said, looking not at the crying woman but at the memory of the daughter I once loved. "You realized I was being humiliated. You just chose not to see it." I paused. The truth needed to be spoken. "You chose comfort and status over compassion and family. You have to live with that choice." I turned away from her. The chasm between us was too vast to cross. Not today. Maybe not ever. Sarah put a gentle hand on my arm. "Arthur, let's get you out of here. My car is waiting." I nodded. I walked towards the door. I finally took off the white jacket. It felt like shedding a skin of humiliation. I handed it to Kevin. He flinched as if struck. "You forgot this?" I said. I walked out of the penthouse where I had been a prisoner for 6 months. I didn't pack a bag. I didn't take anything, except for the small, framed photo of Martha from the kitchen windowsill. I couldn't leave her there. As the car pulled away, I didn't look back. The aftermath wasn't easy. The realization of how close I had come to losing myself shook me deeply. Money was just a tool. Dignity was everything. Sarah and Tom Harrison helped me reintegrate. I took my rightful place as chairman of the board. It felt good to be respected, to be valued. Tom confirmed the stolen money was returned. It was never about the cash. It was about the principle. Kevin and Jessica lost everything. They couldn't afford the mortgage. Kevin was unemployable. The story of how he treated Arthur Vance spread through the industry like wildfire. They were social pariahs. They had to sell the penthouse at a loss. They moved far away from the glittering skyline. I didn't speak to Jessica for a long time. The wound was too raw. But I missed Leo. I arranged through Tom Harrison for visitation rights. The first time I saw him, I took him to the park. "Grandpa, I missed you," he cried, hugging me tightly. "I missed you too, buddy," I said, my voice thick with emotion. We walked through the park. The air was crisp, clean. I pointed to the skyline. "See that building, Leo? The tall one with the spire? The shiny one?" he asked. "Yes, I built that." His eyes widened with the same wonder I remembered. In that moment I knew I was okay. A few months later I received an envelope. Inside was a drawing, a crayon sketch of a tall building. Colorful, imaginative. Standing in front of it were 2 stick figures holding hands. One labeled Grandpa, the other labeled me. Attached was a short note from Jessica. "He talks about you all the time. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I hope one day I can earn it. I'm sorry, Dad. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet." The scars remained, but it was a start, a crack in the foundation of my resentment. Maybe, one day, we could rebuild. I pinned the drawing to the drafting board in my new office. I looked out the window at the city skyline, a skyline I helped shape. I realized that true strength isn't about the wealth you accumulate or the buildings you construct. It's about the character you maintain when everything else is stripped away. It's about the integrity of the foundation. I was Arthur Vance, and I was finally home. Thanks for listening. Please rate our story in the comments. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. Your support means a lot, because your time matters.